Disclaimer: the information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GANs processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
The process of understanding is very simple. The process is, as I explained last time, I explained more in detail. We are created out of the rays within the center of the universe. In interaction and reduction in strength and division by the strength in certain strength fields, in collection of the totality of the expansion of the universe, some energies, some dynamic fields have come together. Over billions of years, these fields lead to the creation of what we call the sun. Where the plasma gathers together. The same process repeats again because the sun is the same as the energy center of the universe. Now, the heavier, the larger amount of the energy which is collected in this span of the universe, called the sun, that it radiates out, does the same thing again. Radiates its fields out, and in interaction with itself, with the fields of itself, leads to creation of planet. In that process of the creation of planet, the same process happens again. In the interaction of the fields of the earth with its environment and cooling and exchange with the strength of the other things in the environment of the space of the solar system, leads to creation of man, cell, matter state. And that itself, in coming together and slowing down in certain ways, as we call, leads to another sun. We call the soul of the man. This is the truth about the life and creation of the man. But if the soul of the man can understand and absorb and be correct with his conduct, he can become the strength of the fields and carry the strength of the field of the planet which came to this creation. And if the soul can understand with the same process, can interact, can be correct, can absorb with itself the totality of the strength of what it needs, he shall become the sun. And then the same soul has the energy that it can absorb within the solar system, within the galaxy, shall become the center of the universe. This happens on earth, we call it the rain. Come from, goes back to. In the solar system, we call it planetary system. We come from the rays, we become the planet and go back to the mother. Same thing happens with the galaxies, with the solar systems, which they get absorbed back in and chewed up back into the universe. The life, the process of existence in the universe is the same. It doesn't matter on what exchange and what extent. So, what is the man fighting for? Why do we fight for something which has come from the point of the creation, and in the process it goes back to the creation? The soul of the man, as the energy of the earth, gives the face of the man, the face of the earth, and that process is the same for the soul of the man. Our soul, in reduction in strength, in interaction with the emotion of the field of the environment, leads to manifestation of the existence of the man. But once it's completed, does it need the face? Or can it be and becomes free from it, what we call the soul of the man, to be free and detached from its existence? Our soul is part of the process of the creation. The key to one question for man shall be in the future to be answered. As we saw, the sun became the earth, and as we saw, the earth became the man's soul. What will be the destiny of the soul of the man now becomes free at the point of departure from physicality. Would it become the sun for creation of another life, or many lives, or correction of lives? This shall be, and this is how it happens. When you create a soul which is not correct, which is misconduct by itself, cannot give, you lead to the creation of the next cycle of creation, which has started the wrong way, the wrong strength. This is one thing the man has never understood. You become the creator of another universe, another cycle. And this is what you have to judge within the structure of the soul of the man. What would I like that cycle to be? In the physical life, we create children. In the dimension of the life of the soul of the man, what that soul will create. If man has thought up to now, that's it, my end, my point when I die is finished, there's as much fallacy that when the sun is destroyed in any shape or form, there shall be nothing left. But we know the parts of the sun becomes part of the galaxy and becomes part of new life. So shall be the soul of the man. The judgment of the man has to be according to what he sees the future his soul can conduct to be. The day of judgment is for the man, not in front of the Creator. That what my soul judges to be and what shall create. Man never understood and shall never understand till he can solve this dilemma within himself. The reality is very, very, very real. And that is, as we've seen, the energy of the galaxy becomes the sun, the energy of the sun has become the earth, and the energy of the earth has become the soul of the man. So shall be the soul of the man, which is the energy itself, another cycle of life. How can you change when you don't understand? How can you change the process of understanding if you do not understand the process of the creation? Do we need to extend the understanding of the man that what is the future he brings? We care about our children, what education they get, what they wear, how happy they'll be, where they sleep. Now the man has to be careful and consider what life shall my soul create, because those are the children of your soul. As we see, the rays of the sun has become a planet and 7 million children of it. 7 billion unlimited, which is growing. So the soul of the man will go through the same process. How many billions and subdivisions and sub-material state of the physicality of the man your soul shall create? Would it be the soul of wars and conflict and ever killing? Or would it be the soul of this, let's say, solar system which is peaceful? This is the truth and the reality about the soul of the man. First of all, as I said many times recently, we never understood that the soul of the man is within the structure of the man. And now that we understood, we understand on departure from the physicality of the man, the same process will carry on as it did to a star, a planet, and the soul of the man becomes another energy source, a higher order, which itself leads to the creation. It becomes the star, it becomes the center of the new cycle of creation. This is what the human race has to understand. The cycle actually starts at the point of death and not finishes at the point of death. In so many ways, if one understands, is as the dusts, specks of dust came together to make the earth in the solar system, so has the specks of the atoms has come to be the creator of man. And the essence of the creation of the specks of dust on the solar system has led to the creation of the man, so shall be the fields from the soul of the man which lead to creation of another cycle of life. What kind of life man would like to have to be created by his soul? This is the day of judgment. This is what man never understood. Now you have to understand. You have no choice. Up to today you were not aware of it. From today you are aware of it. You are responsible for it. Your conduct has to be to elevate your soul. That in elevating the soul, what you become the creator of stands correct in the conduct of the citizens. We don't give fairy tale. This is the truth. But as you've seen, the process does not stop with one son. The cycle carries on. It's very interesting in how humanity, now knowing the fact, will handle the fact. It'll take decades for man to understand, and then you understand those who become the tools of war, the tools of conflict. They have less, they have nothing to start with. They have to become the dust in the solar systems of the others till the day they learn more. As they cannot create a new cycle through their own soul. This is the elevation of the soul of the man. To be part of the creation of a beautiful life for the next cycle. When you don't have it, you have to become another cell in the body of the structure of the bigger, for you to be just there that you can run where you could have been the soul of the man. They say, do not create fear. I give you the point of love for creation. If you cared about your children on this planet to have the best, your true children come out of your own soul in the coming time. How would you like to educate them? How would you like to be when you are in conflict with yourself and the cause of so much mayhem? This is the truth. And the man will take a long time to understand, as now that we understand the soul of the man is an operator for the creation of the future extent of the life of the man. Whatever is gathered by the soul at the end becomes his point of reference of his own creation of his own dimension. But the strangest thing is, what he creates from his soul shall become the creator of the other souls. This is the beauty about the creation, and one understands it, understands no limitation. Any questions?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 482nd Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, April 20th, 2023. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department and part of the public teachings in English. My name's Rick Crammond, and I'll be host once again in these weekly series of workshops. And once again, we have the honor of having Mr. Mehran Keshe as our main presenter and overall teacher today. And I think he's ready to begin. So, Mr. Keshe, take it away.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, good day to you. As usual, wherever and whenever you listen to this series of knowledge seekers from Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, we welcome you back. And we hope, as usual, we learn from each other and we teach each other something about the real ways that the creation is done and it works. Today's teaching is part of the continuation of the other parts of the teaching over past few months and years. And what we're going to look into and what we understand from the point of view, the way we have been taught and the way it actually is. And as we hear more and more about the science of creation, we understand how little we know and how much fallacy we have accepted. We consider ourselves to be the decision makers of our physicality. But in fact, the decision maker of our physicality is our soul. We are a puppet in the hand of our soul. We make decisions, we do things which to do with the food, and we exist in it with the dimension of physicality. That's the job of our physical condition. We go and look for water, we go and look for shelter, we go and look for something to give us energy to sustain this physical body. But the master, the soul of the man, sits behind. How it creates destiny for the physicality to be in a position, then the physicality has to follow that to be in the position which the soul has agreed to be present in a continuation of expansion of interaction of the souls of the man. We call it accidentally, I happen to be there, and accidentally I saw this and that, and accidentally it could have been by chance. Oh, something else, I happen to be there, and I happen to do this. We have created words which we don't understand for the operation of the soul of the man to bring the physicality in position where it needs to be. It's like you tell someone we're going for a blind birthday party, so you bring the birthday boy, but he doesn't know it's coming to the party, as we spoke before. So in a way, the soul of the man with the soul of the mother has agreed to meet the mother in such a place. So the physicality through connection with the soul of physicality makes sure that the physical condition is there to deliver, to bring the interaction of the souls for certain purposes. And then later on we understand why we were there, why we met the mother at that point in time, because the souls have decided for your soul and the soul of the mother to learn something from interaction of the future interaction of the souls. So in a way, we are running forces at the same time. The horse of physicality we think we are in charge of, and the soul of the man, which itself with interaction with other souls come to guide and bring the soul of physicality for it to be there, to bring the physicality to deliver the promise and agreement between the souls. We call it revenge. We call it the condition that he did something and now that's the payment for it. He did something wrong and he deserves this. we have found different interactions or voices or noises or communication line to explain what we don't understand, the connection between the soul of the man, the soul of physicality of the man and the man in the physical dimension. And in that process, we need now to understand this, that why did I turn up in such a place to see such a thing, and what's the outcome in the future for what I've done? What was the purpose of me being there? 50% of our lives, maybe more of it, is fulfilling the commitment of the soul to the others, other souls, for the physicality to be. Even if you get lost in the desert, there is a commitment to the soul of the others. Even if you get drowned in the ocean, there is still a commitment to the other souls. It's not just that you're drowned. It's that process has caused the other souls to bring other physicalities to the position they've done right or wrong to be in. It's not just a funeral we go to. It's what comes in that process after funeral, the souls which have been set to come into, to deliver to, and to comply with the total agreement of the souls. A child becomes an orphan. Somebody loses a son, somebody gains a son. Why are we born in such a moment, such a day, such a second? What would have been the effect of it on the parents or grandparents if you were born a week before or 2 weeks later? Then we come to understand that now we have to accept, not only accept, understand. The full comprehension of the time, place and position is dictated by interaction of the souls, and interaction of the soul of physicality with the physicality of the man in communication with the soul. It's an ever, never lasting blind dates. Turning up, call it by chance, accidentally and the rest. But in fact, it was already set up. But you were blindsided. You could not see, you could not understand that what your grandfather did, what your great-grandfather did, what your mother did, what your brother did, and in that consequence, with the agreement of the souls, you're balancing the field. You're not paying back. Have you ever seen a magnet jumping and going somewhere else, hitting something else? It just keeps a distance. It creates a condition. So for us as a human race, in the physicality of the body of the man, this is what we have to understand. That our physical existence, 80% of the time, we think we do everything. We are in charge. We put the suit on, we put the shoes on. 8 o'clock, we're on the train. 9 o'clock, we are in the office. We come back 10 o'clock, having a coffee, and then 5 o'clock on the train back home. We control everything. Oh boy, how misguided the man has been. The soul of the man uses those times which you think your clockwork on the same train, the same time every week for a whole year. It plans your time for the interaction of the souls in that time bracket. So the soul of physicality and the soul of the man plan your day internally, what needs to be done, that it brings the balance in. Most of the repetition, magnets don't move. When there is an external force, when there is something done wrong with another soul, and then soul has to do it, oh, accidentally go out and you have a car crash during the lunchtime. Oh boy, this was not supposed to happen. But this exactly was supposed to happen because there are other sequences, other effects, other dimensions to this accident, which was set up by the souls for those, for you, and for the others to come in the position of what was done wrong or what was to be corrected. Then, in a simple way, you understand how the prophets promise there'll be such a messenger in so many years and so many centuries and so many decades, and he will do this and that. It's the guy himself changing the clothes, appearing in the same place, because he's already set all the souls through the effect of his own operation to be ready for that. And then he appears and manifests himself. Resurrection of the soul over 2000 years. But in fact, in this 2000 years, he's preparing other souls for it to be ready, that when it comes, say, oh, this is the one which was promised. So, if you understand this, you can plan with the correct conduct of the soul of physicality, the future of your soul, the operation of your soul, where it will be, what it will do, what kind of stars will be when it leaves the point of physicality. And that mankind comes to be understanding he's not very kind to himself, even though he claims to be kind to everybody else. What would be if you understand this position fully? And what would be, what would bring all of us if this point and this part of the totality was fully understood? Would a man commit a crime again? Would a man should kill again? Would a man go out of his way to create mayhem in every direction and possibilities? Would the life of the man becomes bearable by living of the man in conjunction between the soul of physicality and the soul of the man? Something happens. Oh, some accident happened. But the truth is, what can I learn from it? What was my soul? What was my physicality? My soul of physicality was trying to teach me that causes the elevation of my soul in the next step, that I don't put a step wrong. Not just, oh, something happened and carry on. How do and where do in the system that the soul of the man communicates with soul of physicality? On which bandwidth? On which structure? On totality of understanding the structure of physicality of the man, the different emotions are settled, compacted. We find the fraction of the total energy which is released by the soul in friction with the cell of body of the man creates certain knowledge, certain information, which the what we call soul of the man has full control of. Don't forget, you never studied French. You have no clue what monsieur means or whatever in the language. But the soul of the man has been to the universal university, knows everything, and according to the time and place, can use that to speak French, to understand the emotion of the Frenchman without speaking a word. Because in emotion level, everything is the same. Then comes a point, what do I need to know about the emotions? My emotion. And is the emotion the same amongst all of us? Today's teaching is more or less for you to know yourself, to understand the connection between the soul of physicality and the soul of the man. The operation of physical body of the man, even though you think you are fully in charge, you are carrying out the order and the wishes of the soul. And if you understand you're forever servant to the master, which is the soul of the man, which is the in a way, wanting the better life for the life of the man in a box, has appeared and will appear again and again. What's the limitation to this? There are no limitation. What's the understanding in this process for us? The process explains something simple. From now on, look at both sides of the dimension of physicality and the dimension of the soul. Why did I say this word, which I can't even remember ever using it? Why did I show this affection to my child where in public I never show? Then the answer comes, is man who interferes directly out of fear of his own existence in the dimension of physicality that creates all this mayhem for the rest of mankind. To what extent we will come to understand this depends on the extent we have understood about the process of creation, our own life cycle, and how this cycle has affected other souls. And if you are true to yourself, you'll find one answer at the end. The answer which was given at the beginning. And in between, it's just been a series of conversions and everything else, except the truth about the actual life of the entity in existence amongst us. How much more than to what extent we can pass this knowledge on, to share it, that the others share the way we do. It all entirely depends on the knowledge seekers. How do you teach? How do you span the knowledge across that the others understand, not only your soul? And then, would you be able to share, to give, and unconditional? The existence of man has many facets and many dimensions. Mankind needs to understand this. And then, in that process, mankind will come to comprehend how his own creation has become fed up, giving up on the dimension of physicality. How far can we go? How much can we bring this understanding forward will allow us to become the man of space? As we said, we will run two parallel systems, physical travel and dimension of the soul of the man, or central energy of the existence of every living thing in the universe. And if we understand this, then we can decide. This part of the journey, I go with the fly machine. And this part of the journey, I go with the energy of the soul of the man. And wait for physicality to arrive. But understand the dimension of the existence. In a way, the soul takes flight of fancy, and the soul of physicality will follow to join it on a given time, place, and position. What happened when a man dies on board of a UFO or any creature and is traveled through the span of universe? Where would this soul find its place and position? And where would the soul find its peace in a way, the position which was destined? Can we extend our lives to the understanding of this position? And can we predetermine where our soul shall go? What shall it do? And how we will expand the knowledge of the others who are around it? Not knowledge by just reading, knowledge by understanding the emotion of the creation. Then it comes, if we can do this, how come we are not aware of our soul, the work of our soul during our daily life? And how can we work to seize elevation that it serves than actually take? Then the answer is simple. Look within emotion. What emotion creates what kind of motion within your physicality? And do you trust what you feel? Do you understand how you feel? And do you understand why you feel? Would you be able to create a condition that you can elevate the strength of the soul of your own or the others? Or clearly you find a new way to communicate between yourself and the others? In the coming time, shorter than you think, I will teach you how to see through the eye of the man, and at the same time understand and see through the eye of the soul, or understanding of interaction of its roots. And then we'll see how you as knowledge seekers will take steps to be there, to understand more, and to be part of your own creation and your own emotion and your own dimension of truth. Everything in the dimension of the soul of the man has no formula. We cannot write, can you teach us, can you give us a system that we can elevate our soul? You have to learn through the dimension of physicality, which you've been taught, how to connect with the soul of physicality, and through interaction with your soul of physicality, make connection with the soul of the man. Jumping from the physicality to the soul, it's more or less not impossible, but not impossibilities. You have to be able to interact directly at a given strength, because don't forget, it's the soul which created the soul of physicality, where the physicality brought in the soul in the womb of the mother. Now we come to understand. We, in a way, have come to the point that we start gradually understanding that building the space system for the man to travel in the dimension of the soul has no calculation and has no method except understanding the process of the elevation of the soul. Think how you, as a man, with all the teachings of past few years, been nourishing your soul from the environment of life. You breathe it, you extend its strength, you swallow it, you extend the same. You think and absorb energies from outside, still create that condition that you can survive. Then it comes the process of what's the reason for life? Why am I here? And how long more is left till my soul finds its home? Then maybe one day we find the answer to the totality of what is on the table. Any questions? If you understood, should come from within the man and not from outside in a verbal direction and dimension of the man. Connecting make you wise, and that wisdom shows the path to the Creator. It's for you to decide how much you understand and understood from separation, filtering, and cleaning up every dimension of the creation which is in your pot. How much more man needs to know? How much more man needs to trust himself, and what it will take that you as a creation and a creator know and can provide for a soul of your own. As our friend said, I do not know what to do, but I'm doing something because I'm still breathing. In the process of understanding the creation and the creator, we have to understand, or at least comprehend, what is going on, what is feasibility and what is the possibility. And then don't make assumptions. We have to understand the process of the creation. And in the coming time, systems will be set up for man to learn the process, to go through that training, the way you get trained how to drive, you get trained how to swim. Now, with understanding the process of creation, you learn how to swim in the ocean of the fields of the universe, not as a fish, not as a body, but as an embodiment of the energy of the soul of the man. Then you'll find that you will be going everywhere, but there'll be visual physicality in the dimension of existence where you were just being kicked out as the session is not about to happen, but it actually does. Does the soul of the man, has the soul of the man made the soul of physicality blind for it, not to show in the dimension of physicality to the man the truth about himself? And to what extent we have come to understand the truth about ourselves, the truth about our soul, the truth about dimension of creation of us. Today's teaching is enlightenment in the dimension of the operation of our own soul and nothing else. Would it be from carbon 14 coming into carbon 12, and how much of it will be carbon this and that? The soul does not measure carbon and does not have frequency, and it does not work in what it decides to give. It operates in the dimension of what comes and where it has to go. It's actually a postman, it's a postbox, where whatever the other physicalities have done in agreement with their souls, my soul agrees for me to be present at a given time and place and position. Now we understand how we as a human being have to comply with the totality of the wishes of our soul, and not, as we thought, with the hunger of our physicality. Then, if you understand this, and then if we comprehend the separation between the two, then we will come to be part of the totality of the operation of the soul of our own in the dimension of creation. One day man will understand, and one day man in understanding will come to change his life. We are just in the process to create a dimension that you understand the operation of your soul, and not to be what we call a guide for you to use to move your soul when and where you want. The teaching is for you to understand the power of you, for you to understand the extent of knowledge of you about your own creation, that with it you create a new dimension for life. One day, man will become wise, and one day in that wisdom, man will see the truth. But till then, we try to drag the man along till he becomes wise to see the wisdom. Maybe today you understood, you have to understand, or you see the possibilities that will become reality with building, developing, changing, and doing everything possible for us to understand the operation of us. What will be interesting in the coming time, how humanity will start learning about his soul first, and then about his physicality. And to what extent he will understand by feeding the soul, he can feed the physicality the way he wants the physicality to move. So the soul of the man and the soul of physicality of man become unisons. But it's vulnerable that both can be involved in the dimension of another position and time and place without their own choice, but through the choice of where they have to be. One day mankind will become wise to this, and one day mankind will become wise to understand the totality of the creation, which he himself is part of. To what we need to do to be there in those kind of presentation. We will bring in new tools of teaching, new tools of carrying, and allowing you all to play with. We go for a small break and we come back. And then if you understood partially what was the discussion of the table discussion today, we'll carry on to answer some. Rick, would you like to go through a break?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. Okay, we'll have a few minutes of our commercial messages here and be back shortly. This is the 482nd Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, April 20th, 2023.
The revolutionary new Flight Enhancement Spaceship unit is due to be launched in June 2022, and in the same year is expected to fly passengers into space, to the moon and beyond for a day or even several days at a time. There is no need for the Flight Enhancement Spaceship unit to carry food or medicine, as it is equipped with the latest space technology for transportation, transmutation and deep space operation. This extraordinary breakthrough technology ushers in a new era of travel without the need of fuel, food, or medicine, even during the longest excursions into deep space. Each spaceship unit has a 4-passenger capacity for long or short duration flights and has the capability to travel between cities on Earth in a matter of seconds to minutes, depending on the distance and speed. This ability to traverse massive distance in such incredibly short time is not just a breakthrough for human transport, it also completely revolutionizes the transportation of goods and cargo and will rapidly overcome the need for one of our most polluting practices, namely marine shipping, as it finally breaks us free not only from the combustion of heavy diesel, but from the combustion of any fuel for propulsion in the future. The Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit, a new paradigm in space travel, space medicine, and space technology.
The new Horizontal Enhancement Spaceship Unit, a space technology that allows you to work with the fields of the universe, creating a wide range of plasma field interactions and conditions. It allows the body to process itself from any physical or emotional imbalance. Once this balanced condition is achieved, the soul and emotion of the man can follow to find their balance, elevating the whole of the man. The new Horizontal Enhancement Spaceship Unit, technology of the future through advanced plasma knowledge.
Okay, we're back from space back to the 482nd Knowledge Seekers Workshop here. And Mr. Keshe, are you ready to take on some questions in the second half of our show here?
Yep, ready, willing.
Okay, well, let me remind the attendees that they can raise their virtual hands, and then we can allow you to open your microphone so that you can speak and ask a question. No hands are up right now.
Very much. You can say goodbye and see you next week.
There's a couple of questions that were already in the Q&A before you began, and then a couple more in our chat that have appeared. So let's begin with the question in the Q&A from Cristiano, from a knowledge seeker from the Brazilian community, who says, we started to learn about how the inertia creates matter in terms of interacting with the maggrav fields of the plasma of gravity. How does the emotion come in?
Repeat the question and you answered yourself, if you understood.
Okay, we started, should I say that?
Yeah.
We started to learn about how the inertia creates matter in terms of interacting with the maggrav fields of the plasma of gravity. How does the emotion come in?
Emotion does not exist, cannot exist, if you did not have the soul of physicality. Impossibility. Its interaction with the soul of physicality creates within the physical structure of the man emotion. And as we wrote very recently in one of our communications with some officials, the knowledge of the Keshe Foundation has reached a position and time and a level that now we can produce, for example, robots with emotion. It's not programmed. It feels, it detects the field strength that to it means clean up, to it means be safe, whatever. Very recently, I was in position to enter a lift. And next to me, there was one of these big robots. You've seen it, which now they're everywhere. I call them Susies, but this guy was wearing a bow tie, front and everything. I went into the lift door closed, and the lift door opened again. And the Susie came into the lift, turned around, faced the door, and reached towers of floor 17. Waited. When he came to the 17th floor, he went out, and following it, he went through the whole corridor, floor by floor, cleaning the whole building. It has no emotion. It has preset. If he sees a child or a dog, cannot show emotion to it. It's a robot. It's a physicality. If in the dimension of the development of technology where we are, we can create the interaction of the fields at a given specific strength of the field, when the robot sees a child or sees an animal, will show it the real affection. Can I give you water? I feel you're thirsty. Can I bring you some water? I can abandon my job, which is programmed to clean the floor, to go and get some water. I see a child hurt on the corridor. Oh, how it is. Can I go? It's something I have to respond to. Up to now, we did not have this facility. Up to now, we did not have this knowledge. Now we can create systems with emotion. And all it is understanding the process of interaction of the fields, which of the same thing is joy and cry, pain, cry of happiness, pain, cry of pain. How can we have a confusion between this as an emotion? We cry because we are happy, we cry because we are in pain. Isn't the truth about it is that one is stronger in gravitational and one is stronger in magnetical, and the balance between the two is emotion of cry, in a physical dimension of tears. This is why joy and sadness are in the same place in the brain of the man. One is gravitational, one is magnetical. When you're joyful, you give. When you are sad, you take, because it's energy you need. Because that sadness allows you to take more in, that in the future time, it becomes a joy that you can give. So up to now, I never understood what emotion is, why we have always parallel opposite emotions. Because it's very much like an isotope. It's carbon. Sometimes it's 12, sometimes it's 14. If it's 14, it travels in the dimension of universe. If it's 12, it travels in the dimension of physicality. Which one is joy and which one is sadness? Is it joyful that is brought in and given and allowed to be given for the physicality to link up with the dimension of universe? Or is it sad that he cannot give to the dimension of 14 and he has to be as a taker? So now we understand even how emotions have two, what we call presentation, manifestation, but in fact they have the same common denominator. It's a carbon, the other one is, let's say, magnesium. We call it whatever feeling and opposite to it. Because one is gravitational side and one is magnetical side. And then you have to understand on which side you're sitting as a magnetical. Are you in the dimension of physicality or are you in the dimension of the soul? So emotion now is fully understood by Keshe Foundation. And we can replicate systems that create that emotion. And if you mastered it well, you don't need Keshe Foundation. Through the soul of the man, you connect to the same strength, and then you decide if it's the sorrow, I can give it to become joy. We are very good doing it as parents. And when it comes a bit to our elder children, we forget it. Unless we are deliberately manipulating. Which means, in essence, only physicality is the operation. I've sat on the table where the person looks at you with anger and switches to the other side and laughs, switches back to you again with anger. And how can you have two-face? But in fact, it's not two-face. It's the way the emotion, the soul, has interacted with the physicality. Confirmation of the weakness of the physicality. So when you ask about emotion, now you have to understand what emotion is, and is in fact is the interaction between the soul of the man and the soul of physicality of man, and materials created to absorb emotion at given the strength. We call it, if you've seen the new technology, this is where the sadness is felt, this is where the language is in your brain, and this is where the other thing is. In converting from the cosmic rays into the matter state of physicality of the man, certain energy is released, and in that position, we can say what this position of the brain is. Because at that strength, we've shown tears. At this point, at this given strength, we've shown joy and laughter. So now even we can explain in a more detailed way the operation of our brain in the manifestation of physical data on the screens of monitors. But the soul of the man does not have monitors, and the soul of physicality does not carry a screen everywhere. Then I think you have found your answer. If you understood the process of the interaction of the field, and which side you sit as a giver or taker, depending if you're on the soul side or the soul of physicality. If you're on the soul side, you find elevation and dominion. If you're on the soul of physicality, you find action and reaction in the dimension of physicality. Tear, laughter, where what was felt in that position triggers certain other fields in the body of the man, which manifests itself in the dimension of physicality. It's the same. Read book number 1. When the two fields interact, create mass. And when again mass itself interacts with the dimension of the same fields, it becomes weight. But in fact, it's one is created out of interaction of the others. If it's less weight than the others compared to the position, then you call it happiness. If it's more, you call it fat. And the more or less is, you call it slimmer or the right weight. But in fact, it's the same structure, the same interaction. So when you talk about the emotion, you have to understand the interaction between the two. As I said very recently, you cannot test fly if you don't have 2 points of reference. Where are you flying to and where are you coming to? It's the same with the emotion. Are you going from the soul to the soul of physicality? Are you going from the soul of physicality to the soul? And in that position, now given the strength of the brain of the man, which is again itself is just potholes of fields and plasmas, what will be the reaction? If the soul gets with the joy of learning that this makes the physicality happy, then takes the body to be enjoying and be in a enjoyable condition all the time. And then you find the emotion. And then, in so many ways, you find the process of addiction. Because at that point, you're addicted to creating the same thing, the same rhythm all the time, to achieve the giving and the balance of the emotion. Any other question?
Okay, we have a hand up here. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. We have a hand up here with Lynn. We allow you to talk. can go ahead there.
Hello, Mr. Keshe. One of our Chinese knowledge seeker asked that since recently there's so much sandstorms in Beijing and cover most of China, so he's asking, is there a solution to resolve this issue?
Yes, abandon the city. This is something we discussed years ago when I was in Beijing. For those of you who don't know, is that some 10 years ago, there used to be around about 30 days, 20 days, 30 days a year, where the sandstorm coming from Central Asia, which is on the northwest of Beijing, is on the move. This desert has been on the move for thousands and millions of years. It's one of the biggest deserts on this planet, and is eastbound wind, creates mayhem, and if Beijing wasn't here, it would have been the same as if Beijing was here. We have built this beautiful city on the path of the movement of the desert, which over the next few million years again becomes a land, maybe an ocean usually, and then the desert moves into the ocean, and then the whole thing circulates. This is how continents move. No one can stop what we call the movement of this desert. And now, after 10, 15 years, now there is something like 45 to 55 days a year, heavy sandstorms in Beijing. If you come, it looks like a mist. I've been in a few times as I lived in Beijing for some times, and it looks like a cloudy. But in fact, it's the storm, which fine dust particles through the weather change are moving the desert towards Beijing. Nothing can be done about it. If we can stop this desert, if we try to stop the motion of this desert, then we'll create mayhem in the weather condition of this planet. It'll be worse than the global warming. So we have built a very big city on the path of a slow snail called the desert. And this cannot be stopped. And it'll get more and more, with the difference that now we have system to control, to understand, and these sandstorms create directional fields and energies, which in interaction with the upper atmosphere and lower atmosphere create new chemical hazards, poison air, which then in breathing with the sand in the lungs, this leads to all sorts of respiratory conditions in China and especially in Beijing. Dust particles have different sizes, and those who are below very fine, which can penetrate the skin, and those who are thicker, we see them stand on the, what do you call it, on the streets and everywhere else. In my last stay in Beijing, we saw it even our entry in 2-3 days like this. And I remember the manager of the hotel we stayed in said it used to be less now in the past 10 or 15 years, is now getting to about 40, 45 days a year. It'll increase to 100, maybe 150 days. And in time, maybe in 200 or 300 years, man will abandon the city as it gets covered, as the, what do you call it? The desert is moving to the east side. So you can't do anything with it. It's just don't be in front of this slow snail. Doesn't matter how much trees you build, how much barriers you put up, the sandstorm, feel the strength of the storm from center of the desert itself, and the back end of it is east direction, and it will come. Maybe in few thousand years, in a million years, somebody, the cycle of sandstorm moving further, will find, oh, there was a city, millions of people used to live in it. Will abandon the city. Sooner or later, in hundreds of years, this city will be abandoned. Nobody has managed, and scientifically it's not correct to stop this motion. Just try to get out of this path. And we don't have any scientific, any tools to stop the motion of this, what we call desert. Any other question?
Okay, well, we can continue with our chat question here now. With Farzam has a question. He says, in the previous workshop, Mr. Keshe said that first the gravity of the earth formed, and then it led to the creation of the earth. Can you give more of an explanation?
No, this is how it is. It's like the emotion we were explaining. When the gravitational field strength is stronger than magnetical, the central field forces of higher order is created, so he absorbs a lower layer of or strength of fields. This is how cancer is produced in the body of man. You create an environment of heavier field strength in a given environment, and then because it's higher, it absorbs the fields of the lower level, so it gets up building mass in that lower level, till a point when the mass field inertia compared to the magnetical field changes, and then what we call the atmospheric and physicality appears. This is done in production of materials. This is not theory we talk about, we see it physically. This phenomenon is fully understood. We have the knowledge and the technology to keep the inertia changing in respect to gravity and produce the carbon as a solid, the carbon as is in the amino acid, and the carbon as is in the amino acid of the plant or the man. The knowledge within the Keshe Foundation is very deep. And it took me years to teach our scientists to understand. The possibility of creating as much fat as you like in a natural way, not by adding in chemistry, in a natural way as you produce in the body of the man, is in the position of the Keshe Foundation. And many of you have seen it, but you don't understand it. You collect a gas of CO2, and on top of it you see fat. That fat has a CO2 characteristics absorption level, otherwise you wouldn't be there. So in the bottom you see a gas of CO2, on the top you see is amino acid of the CO2. Now this knowledge, we know how it's done and how we can do it. Any other question?
Okay, a question from Ion in the Q&A. Good morning, Mr. Keshe. Are you so kind to develop a little the phenomenon of lighting of the light at the Holy Grave in Jerusalem?
Explain.
I'm not sure about the lighting of the light at the Holy Grave in Jerusalem. He wants to know more about that phenomenon, apparently.
is the phenomenon as given time the candle lights up or the light comes on at a given time and place and they bring the light out? Or are we talking about different light? Creation of light in a specific way by creating specific condition has been understood for centuries and depends how people used it, and some use it to the benefit of man and some use it to become a magic and then connect it to religions to find influence and power. Till late last century in Iran we had a bath, which was lit, a public bath, which was lit with one candle for decades. And then the British came to understand how they thought they can find this mystery of what they call nuclear bomb or whatever out of it. And by moving the combination of the structure which was set up to create the spreading the fields was destroyed and the bath is gone. The bath is still there, but it's not warm anymore. And it was a light. It wasn't just some geological. One candle was heating a full public bath, thousands of liters, for decades. The exhaust from the gas, which is the methane gas, was understood. And then the combination of some methane gases around the pool by what we call subnomial field kept the water warm. Now we understand the technology. But as usual, wherever the British went, they created mayhem because they had to find something they could take back to England to show what they found. But this knowledge they never understood. Nowadays, we control the methane in the houses and we say this is the problem, blah, blah. But then scientists, man of knowledge, understood and used subnomial methane plus methane itself and manifested as one candle, when actually the whole pot was in flame but could not be seen. And this light situation which goes in Jerusalem is of the same what I call level of understanding. How things are moved at a given point with a certain point of manifestation, a light is created. You can create that light anytime. If you know. You have to watch the movement, you have to watch the concentration, you have to understand the position. Then you need a very, very little to light the candle up. It's like a match which needs to be instant for a few seconds to get the candle lit. Now we understand the knowledge, so there is no trick into it. But if you want to make it holy, you can add everything else from Jesus to Moses to Muhammad to it. And somebody slept there and somebody blew into it. And something which is magic and it only happens on Easter Sunday or whatever. This is what I said many, many times. If you understand the knowledge, man in the depth of the universe will not find any more magician calling themselves prophet or the mystery of the light. Now we understand the process. You understand the field interaction. How can you create that field in a given position with a certain thing that creates that concentration and a spark? If you think of it, how many times you have suddenly moved and you say, oh, I received the electric shock. Static energy. If you can, where they talk about this slide, if you study the movement of physicality, you'll see it's an instant spark in a certain motion which creates, and it burns anything. Candle, you can even put a piece of cloth, it'll burn. Then, what is the mystery? And then, if you found out you can do this in a given position, then you attach it to Moses and to Christ and everything else. It can be on a Sunday, on a Monday, or a Tuesday. Depends on which day you're going to light it up and which religion you're going to attach it. This is why we keep on emphasizing. Do not get fooled and do not accept no prophets and no prophecies. Understand the knowledge. A light has to come from interaction of the fields. And how do they light it up? How does the static energy converts to? How come every time you pass a place, you get the electric shock, you say, and you hear the spark? But if you're clever enough, you can use that to kindle a light, and then from that on, make every man on the street come and pray. Is a magic ball, the light comes on every time I pass. That's all it is. Find the knowledge and develop technologies which can see and measure the electric current charge and how something at a given point will ignite. Then you can do it every 24 hours on the hour. You don't need the Sunday or you don't need any resurrection. And no one can fool you in the space. Any other question?
Okay. We have a question from Cristiano in the Q&A here. Good morning.
Let me explain something.
Mm-hmm.
Let me explain to you something. In the laboratories of the Keshe Foundation, we have managed to develop a technology system, a plasmatic system, that if it's run in conjunction correctly, can produce materials, can produce energy, can produce food, and can produce anything else you can imagine from the same system. And it will be demonstrated in the coming time in one of the major cities in the world as the manifestation of completion of the man's knowledge in technology. With this ball, we can create fire, we can create water, we can create food, and it's only a ball. I'm sure if we leave it long there enough, they make a temple around it and it becomes the holy ball. But if you understand the knowledge of it, you understand is a key to life survival in deep space. I wonder how many of you will call us everything else which is promised in every book that they made something to control it. It's not something we're going to build. It already has been built. And in a very short time, will be done with some of the biggest capitals in the world. To show the completion of the knowledge of the man. The same ball will light up, will bleed blood, will create honey, and then, if you like it, we can add anything else you like to it. Because we understood the secret of creation. No one. Depends how we're going to use it to what we call fool you and create a new way of thinking or influence your thinking that we are magicians. But this is the way Earth does. Lights, you have a daylight, it creates water for you, it creates honey for you and the milk. And you breathe in it. Nobody brings tankers of honey from another destination in the universe, and nobody does with the milk. The cow eats the grass and the child drinks the milk. Now we understand that process. And the beauty of it is that any one of you can do. Any other question?
Okay, from Cristiano. Good morning, Mr. Keshe and all knowledge seekers. Mr. Keshe, I noticed that at the transition point between the emotion of physicality and the emotion of the soul, there is a very subtle change before we go deeper into the emotion of the soul. However, I noticed that the physicality tries to, quote, kidnap this transition. I ask, how can we make a faster leap to go through the transition without interference of the physicality in the process? Thank you very much.
Learn not to be cheated by it. It's like a Coulomb barrier. You have to pass it. Some people say it doesn't exist, but it actually does. We call it barrier. We call it upper atmosphere. You call it the Coulomb barrier. It's again the way man has made so many names for the same physical operation. So you don't need to do much. You need to understand the point of interaction. The beauty with the plasma is it doesn't have a fine line. This is the line of interaction. It's a bandwidth, it's a gap, it's a distance from one point to another, has a dimension of physicality to it. And that's the beauty of it. Depends which end you fall in, and that means the same emotion as somebody else in the inner side of the same plasma fields. Any other question?
Okay. From the YouTube, we have from Peng Peter, if whatever happens is the result of the interaction of the souls, does that mean the will of our Creator is in fact the collective will of the soul of the universal community?
Not far from it, because we are part of the Creator and we are created from the same. Creator and the creation and created are all the same. Depends which side of the fence you stand. It's a mother with a fine line of lifespan, born as a child, conceived as a sperm and an egg in a different environment. If you stand 40 years down the line or 20 years down the line, matures to become what was created out of, to become the creator of the child. Another cycle. So where are we? If you understand this, you understand the process of life. What was created become the creator of. And there's no difference between micro and macro. But she's still part of the society. She still lives with the others. But at a given point, from point of observation, if you look at the child born as a girl from the womb of the mother, it's just a child. She cannot give life. If you wait long enough, matures enough, then what was created become the creator of. And this is how the cycle of life is. This is how the creation is. We are part of it. Are we the observer, or actually are we that child? Or are we the mother who created child while she was a child herself born out? There's a very nice program on television sometimes. It's nice to watch children cartoon. I'm a cartoon lover sometimes. This is of Tom and Jerry when we were little, Mickey Mouse. In this cartoon, the two little girls talking to each other, and one says to the other one, "You're a baby." He says, "No, I'm not a baby. I'm always me." He says, "Go and ask your mom." Both of them march to the mother and say, "Mom, she's telling me that I used to be a baby once." And the mother says, "Yes, that's how you were born. You're a baby and you are what you are now." we deny our own existence, because that way we disclaim to be the creator of, while we've been created out. Any other question?
We have a combined question here in their Q&A from Wolfgang of the German-speaking community, and also from Jalal has the same question apparently. Although I'm not
in the German community, they all talked and then they came over unanimously with one question. Correct.
Now, I'm not sure if the interpretation might be different or whatever, but the question is, when the body converts phosphorus to calcium over a long period of time, what is the reason for this? Could it be a certain emotion? And if so, what would that be? That's the question from Wolfgang. From Jalal, he says, why the body converts the calcium to phosphorus? What is the relationship between these? So I'm not sure if they're talking about phosphorus to calcium or calcium to phosphorus. Perhaps
historically, the thalamus and thymus work to create this condition. And in the cases of conversion of the phosphor to calcium, the body produces, they use the same seed calcium, because every single cell of the body of the man has a calcium. And then the phosphorus attachment, and we have a calcium attachment. If you have a calcium attachment to the calcium cell, you end up with a bone, physical bone. If you have a phosphor with a calcium, you have all this cleansing system within the body of the man, and it's affecting. That's what the job of the phosphor and the sulfur is in the body of the man, partially. You have a combination of sulfur phosphor, which converts due to certain interactions into calcium, where the seed center manifests itself as a calcium. And the phosphor field strength is converted to the seed of calcium by energy conversion. And there are about 15, 20 people at any time alive on this planet, which the body does this automatically. Doctors have developed the material for it, which by introduction of aluminium, they try to slow down the rate of the conversion of the energy fields. Aluminium is absorbed. That's why we have it in the brain, and we have all the problems, or we have it in the blood cell. We have other problems like dementia and what we call a manic condition. In the thalamus and thymus conversion, the sulfur and phosphor energies changes into energy of the calcium, and then this calcium, it comes in and usually gets deposited in the blood vein instead of the blood. So if you take let's say the main arteries of the leg, the calcium gets deposited to this, and all these people with this disease, which phosphor and sulfur convert, it doesn't convert the energy received from thalamus and thymus conversion information, DNA, RNA, gets deposited in as a heavy material into the main arteries, and they usually amputate the legs. And then it starts from the toes, the foot, they then amputate the leg, and they usually die. And sometimes, due to repositioning of it, this calcium sits on the wall of the heart, and it's like putting a grain between a sand grain between the tissue. After a while, with the repetition of the heartbeat, the wall of the what we call the inner wall, the heart tears up, and you die of the heart failure. And we've done a lot of studies on this. That's why I know fully about it. And we have developed a technology to reverse this position. where body goes to normality. It's a very extensive work. It has to work with the thalamus, with thymus, and you work with part of the digestion system to stop the conversion, or in a way to bring balance in the magnetic field of the phosphor and sulfur in the body of the man. I worked on a case like this in 2008, 2009, and there's some 10,000 pictures available on how it does, because the lady, she just passed away about 2 years ago, through old age, around 80, 85, I think. She was an adopted daughter to my mother, and she lived in Manchester, born in south of Iran, to brother and a sister. Brother died due to heart failure with the calcium tearing apart the heart. The lady, the woman, she had the calcium in the vein arteries, the main arteries of the leg. She was brought up, she was due to be amputated because it creates gangrene when the blood doesn't go to the toes. And she was supposed to receive amputation in Manchester Royal Infirmary on the next couple of days. I said to my mom, there's a possibility this can be reversed. And my mom spoke with her, and she took the first flight out of Manchester. She joined us, and they did a vein, what we call artery replacement in the hospital. They put a plastic vein, as we call it, in. 2 years later, again, the vein was blocked with calcium, and they could not replace it. And the toes were going for amputation. With the supervision of the head of the hospital, in the second time when she was brought to us, we agreed, it was too late for the small one toe, actually, the big toe to be saved. We agreed on how the amputation is going to be with the surgeons in the operating room. And the first time we went above the joint between the foot and the toe, and the nurses made a mistake. They didn't understand this is a different way of handling it with the new plasma technology. The gangrene sat in, so we agreed with the doctors in the operating room, I was present, where is going to be cut beyond the joint towards the foot. And we set out, while the cleaning the structure, we set the whole body to stop converting calcium of phosphor and sulfur combination to calcium. And we succeeded. Her fingers all were going to be amputated because they all were in the same condition. They were peeling and falling off, and we could see the bones. Literally, you see in the cartoons, bones sticking out. This lady had bones sticking out. We have 10,000 plus pictures of every process of this. And then I said to the doctors that, leave it, I know a way to grow the toe. And we went through the process of growing the toe. And we saw how we spoke about it before. And then we watched the toe to grow from inside, bones going. And then we watched the conversion of the balancing of the going back to normality, what was genetic, because in the family they had it, to a normality, the fingers covered. It became back to normal. And the toe, when this was done in 2009, she died in 2020 in the City of Manchester. We're never coming back. Because at that time she was taking aluminum tablets, and each one about 40 pounds each. She had to take one, and she was taking cocktails of medicine to try to stop this process, because she would have died in a matter of months as the gangrene and amputation come. She never had any amputation, and I saw her last picture at the funeral of my father 3 years ago. She was normal. Those sticking bones all gone and everything else. It can be done. We understand the technology, we understand the conversion. And this is one of the beauties of this technology. If you understand the essence of creation, you can create and you can convert. Any other question?
All right. Question from Antonio in the YouTube. Mr. Keshe, is it possible that not only robots having a soul, but because of humanity's aggression, that they may turn on us to solve this problem?
To solve which problem? To make a human out of us? Humane human?
Yeah, yes, I believe so. Put the humane to human.
Maybe we are a step ahead of that if you understand how to create fields at the strength of the, what do you call it? The field of emotion. In a very, very short time, I hope if we come to conclusion, one of the largest exhibition centers in the world of the Keshe Foundation will be open in one of the biggest capitals. And in that exhibition, we'll demonstrate the change in emotion and how technologies can be brought in. And in a way, we will show how man can handle itself, how man will come to understand itself, how man can change his emotion. How we're talking to representative government to move into a prison and change the life of criminality in the nation. And one of our friends who was involved in this with us, he said, you know what's the only thing you cannot change, Mr. Keshe? Says, have you seen this? What do you want to handle? I said, I can guess. He said, I promise you can't do one thing with them. So he says, all of their bodies covered with tattoos. Can you get their tattoos cleaned up? You can get their emotion and behavior changed. I said, then it becomes their regret, what they've done with their body. He said, all of them are tattooed from the top to toe. You don't see any skin. And we wish we could change this, because when they look at it, would they become ashamed of what they've done through the other part of their lives? Technology is very advanced. It's time to show its power. And very soon we shall. Sooner than any of you can imagine. We soon will close the exhibition in Lens. And the last time we'll be present in Europe. Very soon, if any of you wants to go to see the exhibition in Lens, you have very short time left. As the technology and one of the largest exhibitions of the Keshe Foundation will move to a new destination in a very, very short time. Out of the mainland Europe. The other point.
Okay, from Malcolm in our webinar chat here. who asks, how important are the chakras and meridians to the operation of the soul? And what exactly are the chakras and meridians of the earth?
How important is Earth, Saturn, and Moon to the solar system and to the sun? It's a collection center of energies. And we have chosen a name for it. Is if you look at it, whatever you call a chakra, except the one which is above your head, which we thought is above our head, they missed it because they never considered the soul to be within the body of the man, is the energy point centers of the, what we call organs. If you look at all the chakras, they tell you, and look at the concentration of the field of the organs, it's in the same place. One by one. And you have a right kidney, you have a left kidney, you have a, what do you call, the heart, and then you have the combination of the, what do you call, the energy fields up between two hemispheres of the brain. And these all are counterbalanced by the field strength of the back spine bone. Most of these energies, when you look, it's like a star formation. You look at the chakras in the front, you say this is chakra blah 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 blah, but they have an interconnection in the front, but they have to have a counterbalance, which comes through the power transmission and the spine. If you move, or if the chakras move in balance with the position of the fields in the spine, where the nerves come out of the spinal cord, you have all sorts of problems. But man always looks at the energy field through the organs in the front, but you have a counterbalance on the back. And everything in the body goes through neurosystem in the back, which feeds to the energy, which is a loose part in the front. In a way, by parallel point in the back, through the power of the neurosystem, you control the chakra in the front, as is a twin system. This is a very deep discussion, and through the break, but if you look at it through the leakages of the nerves out of the disc into the body, you can see much structure in sometime in the angle of 10 to 15 degrees, as where they call it the chakra to be the energy in the front. But it actually controlled most of it through neural system in the back, because you can feed one through twinity, you feed the other, you control the other at the front. And that's how, in principle, when you deal with the systems of the Keshe Foundation, and if you've been with us or in some of the teachings, we always say put the double loaded pad in the back and the single in the front. That you push the energy from the back to the front, out of the body. If you would the reverse, you push the energy into the spinal system, you spread the disease. So this is a part which is what I call the hidden knowledge we don't teach, because mankind is not ready to understand. But mainly most of the divisions of the chakras, if you look, is connected with the spinal cord division into the body of the man within 3, what do you call it, discs. This is why when you have a car accident, a damage to your neck, you'll find problem with digestions and in the intestines and in your bladder. And doctors don't see the relationship because they never understood. You take most of the energy dissipating in the neck and through the fine tissues go through the stomach and changes the characteristics of the chakras. Because the same amount of energy is not going down the spine to control the chakras in the back through the back called the spinal cord division. What day we teach this? But in essence, you have used it in the system. This is why the new pads, the enhanced power pads, are so effective. If you notice, Keshe Foundation has marketed a new pain pads, work on the same principle of the chakra energy division, but specifically for certain two chakras. Any other question?
Isaiah in the YouTube asks, will we be able to use the systems to regain access to human abilities such as telekinesis?
Translate.
Well, I guess he's talking about the new systems that have been created by the Keshe Foundation, and he wants to regain access to human ability. He mentions telekinesis, which is would be the ability to move an object at a distance using your mind, basically.
Everything is possible if you can get your soul moving out. A new magician tables, you call it. Always said, don't say, come to me. If you want to please me, if I can give you enough for you to please, move. That way you can move a stone, let alone a man. But you have to find the soul of that stone. In words, our child sits in front of you. When you say, I love you, can I give you a kiss? The child runs to get that kiss, to please you that you love her. Now do the same thing with this. But don't forget the writing of the Hollow Blessed's name. Even the stone has a soul. Find that soul. You'll move the stone. Any other question?
From Yui Hong in the YouTube. Hello, Mr. Keshe. I want to ask a question. If we are all from the Creator and all are part of Him, is our Creator also a part of a larger Creator? And keep looking up. Is this infinite?
I think we touched this last week in the teaching. Why do you look up? But there's more to look in and look down into within. Even though there is still something to look up with, otherwise we don't have God permission of our own existence. Look at it this way. To us, from inside the solar system, we see the moons and the planetary system and the sun. How does the solar system looks to ones outside it? Do they see the way we see it, or they see the same thing in a different way? Are we looking within, or are we outside looking it? And what do we see? When we look at our own body, do we see our liver and our kidneys? We know they're there. But if you're a liver and kidney, you know what's the operation of that. How do you wait for the rest of the body to bring the materials to you to clean over the kidney? And the rest of the things bring their things for you to wash as their heart. So we are aware of existence of others, but from outside, nobody sees our kidney. Look within, I'll look over outside to see what it is with it. Any other question?
I'm just checking over here.
We've been now going for 2 hours, which is right.
I think you've answered pretty
All
much
day.
all the questions, Mr. Keshe, which is
Just having
unusual.
all the day. Oh, this is
Chris had a question in the Q&A that I missed here. What do I do to get rid of my foggy left eye?
Join the Keshe Foundation. Go to the what do you call it? Info at Keshe Foundation or health at the Spaceship Institute, and get an appointment with the doctors. I'm sure they can help you with the new technology.
Okay, that's a good suggestion.
We announced last week about the first 25 and then the 200 and then the 65. We are more or less completed with the 25. We are looking in the 200. Those of you who live outside EU, you have to get in touch with the Keshe Foundation, info at keshe.foundation, where to send your donation to be part of. Those of you who are within EU, still carry on paying into the, what do you call it, the Keshe Foundation account in Holland. This is a technical change for the Keshe Foundation. Gradually you will understand more why. But if you are living outside European Union with the IBAN number, you have to go through a different channel of transferring your funds to the Keshe Foundation. You money transfer, or if you write to info at keshe.foundation or health at the Spaceship Institute, they will give you the details what you have to do. And there will be a lot of big changes in Keshe Foundation operation in coming weeks and months, and we'll keep you updated and informed. It's part of the changes which we have come to accept change. Any other question? We still have room for the 200 people, and those of you who have already joined in for the first 25, sometime in June you'll be informed of the place, time, and position you have to be in, and then September, October for the 200. But we inform you if you need visas, everything, we can support you to get your visas and everything else to be in the position where we will be allocated to do this work. Any other
question? One last question from Elizabeth. Well, we have another one that just popped in from Wolfgang, but from Elizabeth, who asked, what do you think about what happened or what's happening with artificial intelligence? Do you have any opinion on that?
The artificial intelligence will be reality intelligence very soon, because they have essence of the creation. It won't be artificially, but in a way the process of the knowledge is changed. There's a lot of changes coming on board in the coming time. And over the next 5-10 years, even the technologies like computers and satellites and intelligent, what we call it, all will change drastically. We see it, it's in the pipeline. Intelligent, what you call it, with emotion microchips are on the card. In a process that chips, whatever it's emotional effect. Because the materials to create emotion now is at the grasp of the man. You understand how and the way it's done.
In that regard, we could maybe address Wolfgang's question here that just popped up, which is about transportation. And he mentions if you travel by car from A to B, for example, you know that you will arrive at B in 2 hours. You can adjust to this. But if you're standing in your living room and a second later you're standing next to you in Linz, couldn't you have psychological problems coping with this sudden change of location?
We pre-accept that we are going to see. I think the joy of arriving is more than psychological. One of the biggest thing is now is when we put you to moon. A few seconds before you're on Earth, and then you arrive in moon, in dome. You were wearing clothes after being in a cold condition. Now you're in moon, something you did not carry any clothing. How are you going to accept the new condition on the body? And these are the what do you call it, the evolution in acceptance that we have to accept. They say if you can't stand the heat, do not get in the kitchen. And so if there's going to be, you don't have a pre-mindset that you're going to be in this and you're going to meet your friend, what will be happening in between does not need 18 hours of flight. Somebody wrote to me, why are you moving out of Linz? The reason being, Linz is too far. And not many people can make it, mainly German and Austrians. We have to move in a position that everybody from all corners of the world can reach, and there is enough traffic. Our team in this knew that soon we'll be moving, and now gradually is taking shape. We formed them months ago that Keshe Foundation exhibition will move because it's too remote, so people have to get from wherever to Vienna and then 2 or 3 hours by train to get to Linz and then get a train to all sorts. And the expenses are too high because it's a remote position. So Keshe Foundation moves to major cities, major capitals, to allow, let's say, large population of the world to see the coming of the new technology. It's not something new. Our team were informed months ago of the move. Any other questions?
We did have a question just come up in YouTube from Joy House, who says, my name is Karen from South Africa. I had registered and paid for this special satellite. Will I still be able to serve in this way?
Yes, satellites will be brought in the operation completion of the work. Yes. Stay where you are, you're part of the bigger work which will come. You got to realize, I was explaining this to some people, some of our knowledge seekers online, so they know what I'm talking about. If you look, we have set up an international one nation organization. And when you do this, you have to have a field of contacts with people like ambassadors and whatever in the physical dimension of today. Then you need the structure of the health structure, you need the structure of the food structure, you need the structure to be able to reach energy to people. You have to have a structure to be able financially to put them to support through a system which you set up, which is correct. And then you have a structure of governing, governance, and then you have a structure of what we call being able to connect everything together. If you look at it, we have brought in a very subtle way, all this together is every pieces over 20 years have been brought together in pieces, and then it's left till the time is there to bring it in. We brought in the cash coins to start a new financial structure. We brought in what we offered a few months ago, that you can join in as part of the, like insurance policy, for the health, for the food, for your wellness, for your energy. And we made the wellness available. Food will come very soon. You can pay a fee and receive most of the nourishment you need through headphones and the systems we set up. So, and then it comes to the energy, which is now getting set up. The system is reaching up to get there. So, as a one nation government, does not matter if you are in Berlin, you're in Toronto, or you're in Beijing, or you're in Lagos. You can log in like a nation. You go to a supermarket. If you go to, let's say, Walmart in America or in Beijing or in another part, it's all Walmart, the same structure, the same setup, looking after people of the community the same way. Now, the Keshe Foundation is all being set up, coming to it. Doesn't matter wherever you are in the world, you receive the same healthcare. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, you receive the same pleasure of food, the same energy, the same financial structure. Everything for governance of one nation has been set up. And a lot of you participating in it without you knowing or you are. And part of this satellite system is that not any of you became. The soul brings you to be there. And then we set up the governance, which is the Universal Council. We see a few here, there, they are working and everything else. Once it comes to operation, Universal Council will take over its shape and it works. Same with the Earth Council. So in a long term, we brought in the television. We left it there to be because it's set up to be the structure when it needs to come in. The KF SSI as a university education center has been set up, and then it'll come in to go. We had to do, we tested, we set it up. Now it's sitting in like a quite nice baby in a corner waiting to play. The structure for one nation, one government, one policy, one benefit is 60% imposition. The other 20% will be delivered in the next few months. And the completion of 20% will be in the next 5 to 10 years. I have set up a structure to govern as one planet, by the people, for the people, through the people, through knowledge and technology and not politics. You will not have presidents and you will not have the kings. And the structure comes, the last man standing, what am I going to do? How am I going to survive the correct way? And this is how it is. To you, Keshe Foundation could be a lot of things, but it's a structure set up. And to set up one structure, slowly, with help of you, each one of you came in, took one corner of this carpet, is well structured. Tested, brought in, wait till it comes in. Tested, brought in, wait till it comes in. We have, when you go into the Keshe Foundation website and you see all this, so much for the health, so much for the food, so much for travel, because we know traveling, at the moment, let's say you pay £1,000, £2,000 for a everyday transiting between, let's say, outside London and Central London to go to work. We know the cost of the travel becomes so much through transportation that we offer you a package to travel anywhere around the world for a whole year for a family for €5,000 or €3,000, whatever it is in the package. Because we know in the next 5 years, systems will be all over the place. You who pay this policy now, when it comes into operation, you find out the guys who are going to do it is going to pay maybe 8,000, 10,000. You've done your saving now, joining in. But we have the technology of it. I explained past few days to some people. You go and buy insurance policy, and then you have to go and, when you get ill, to find a doctor, and then for the doctor to diagnose, for the insurance policy to pay the doctor, and then you need an operation to get the insurance policy to agree to pay for the what do you call it, the care you need, and it could be the wrong care, not necessarily do what it's supposed to do, and then it can create some outside effects and everything else. With the Keshe Foundation Wellness Plan, Keshe Foundation is the insurance policy provider, is the carer, and works in a way for it to make you better that you don't use the system later on. We are not sending you to somebody else to see you. Our doctors serve directly at the beginning. We put a permanent plan for 1 hour or 2 hours a year for you to have to go into the system. That the future problem is not that you clock the system up with 20, 30, maybe weeks, 2 or 3 hours a week. So I have set up a universal government. And I'm a very patient man. All these things we set up, when it comes together, now you have bricks, now you have gold, now you have dollars and a pound. I have a cash coin. That's all. I can cash it anytime. It's not the Bitcoin which today makes me a millionaire, tomorrow I lose everything, nobody can steal it. Because stealing is not worth anything because it belongs to the same people in the same line. And it's the same value. Your haircut is done. Energy transformation, the satellite system for conversion of the fields and energy, all is set up. I planned this for centuries and I'll deliver it complete when it comes. But if we do it all, it becomes magic. When human race gives a hand to make it as knowledge seekers and the others, then it's accepted, it brings that collective. Today, you pay $63,000 for a kilo of gold, and you pay $6,000 for a kilo of copper, and then you pay $500,000 for another metal, a ton, or a kilo. Now with the production of the material production, everybody's cost is $500 a ton. Because it's the same system, how you tune it produces the material one. African nations now can develop. Africa has run into the maximum uses of natural resources of energy. This is one of the reasons Africa nations cannot grow anymore, and the Europeans are using it to the maximum hilt of it. All the dams on the rivers have been built, whatever could be done. Europeans have access to the fuel they burn from Middle East and everywhere else, feeding the fire of the industry. Africans cannot because they can't afford to pay fuel. In the coming months, Africans have access to the same energy, 1 cent a kilowatt, as do the Americans. Let's see where Africa goes. Never ever in the history of the man has been such a just system through technology and science delivered to man. Let's see what the others do. Reduction in the price of the natural materials in the coming years will bring balance in what we call poor and rich nation, because the rich has rubbed on the back of the same mine coming out of the, what do you call it, gold and silver or platinum or copper, as the Africans do with the technology of the Keshe Foundation in the cities to produce maybe even better and newer version of the sea. Never in the history of man has been such a just structure. And it's done by you knowledge seekers. We just deliver the knowledge. The promised day of the milk and honey is here. You just wait till it's served. Thank you very much for today. And hopefully we see each other. We meet very soon. And we'll share more knowledge. Thank you very much, Rick, for today.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Keshe. We have one question maybe you can quickly answer. Are the One Nation ID cards going to be available soon? Asked by Isaiah.
Still, those is good. It's in the backfire working on. One nation card has to be accepted by all the nations to be a valid card. There's no use being a piece of plastic in your back pocket.
And Gigi asks how to join the 200.
If you're in EU, you go and pay the 10,000, which is on the thing for the account of the Keshe Foundation in Holland. If you're outside EU, you don't carry what do you call it, IBN band number in your account, which is if you're from what do you call Netherlands, got an NL. If you're British, or GB in the front of it, you contact the Keshe Foundation info and they give you direction where to make the payment to. And you automatically, the 25 is full. The 25 is completed. So we are now into the 200. And soon will be completed. And I have a very good idea where you're going to go. You go to one of the most beautiful capitals in the world. The most amazing places that. And we're just working on it, but you'll be announced sometimes in June. And if any of you have any problem with visa, Keshe Foundation will sort it out. And you won't miss a flight. We'll make sure. But it'll be one of the most comprehensive teachings of the Keshe Foundation in the week of the 200. And you're not here on a holiday. You're here to what we call enrich the soul and the knowledge of them. Many of you, when you leave the 65 final section, will be the first passengers of the Keshe Foundation, what we call pioneers of work. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. Don't forget, by the way, next Friday, 28th, is the addiction session of the Keshe Foundation. Again, if you are, all of you who live outside EU and you've been making donation or payments, get in touch with the Keshe Foundation because it goes to a new system. And if you're in the EU, it still goes to Holland because you might pay and it comes back to you. Just get in touch with the foundation, you'll be given a new structure and work through that. Thank you very much, Rick. And see you next Thursday and next Friday on the addiction. But don't forget, this is a different addiction than you're thinking, but it still helps you if you have other addiction. Thank you very much, and see you next week.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. And speaking of next week, we have the next public teaching workshop is the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace and Justice with members of the Universal Council. That will be on Tuesday, April 25th, starting at the 4 p.m. Central European Summertime. Okay, I think that's it for now. We'll go out with the Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit music version. And I thank you everybody for attending today's workshop. And thank you all for the multitude of questions. And again, thanks, Mr. Keshe, for answering all the multitude of questions. Okay, bye for now. And see you in the next public teaching workshop.